welcome back to the Wise Miller Homestead. I am trying to make sourdough, and I've been trying to make a sourdough starter for the last 2 or 3 weeks now. And yesterday was my first time trying to make sourdough bread out of my starter. And I did it in the bread machine and it just came out really small. Usually my bread loaves come out a little bit bigger. So it came out really small and it was super dense. It definitely had the sour flavor. It didn't really have the texture of sourdough. It wasn't as like airy and fluffy and light and like holy, I guess, as sourdough usually looks to me. And it definitely tasted a lot more sour than I thought it probably should have. That was a sourdough starter that I had used. It was like a 1920s sourdough starter. It was 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of milk, and 1/4 cup of sugar. And I let that ferment, and it said not to feed it every day. So here I'm thinking, I've got a full-time job. I have 3 kids. I have 30 chickens and a husband. I mean, good Lord. I don't know if I've got the time to feed a sourdough starter every single day. Then I got to thinking about it and I'm like, well, it's only for a week. And then after I know that my sourdough starter is good, I can throw it in the fridge. And that kind of stops the fermentation process until you're ready to use it. And then you just feed it, leave it out at room temperature, and it's ready to go the next day. That is assuming I get it right. So yesterday I think was a fail, and that's okay. I threw the loaf away. My youngest tried it and he's alive. So it wasn't totally bad. But I woke up this morning feeling a little bit defeated and I thought, well, I'm just gonna throw out that starter and start again. But this morning, or this afternoon, it came out and you should have seen it earlier. It was a lot more bubbly, but like, it's a lot more, you can't tell now because I stirred it up, but it's a lot more pull, like it has a lot more elasticity to it. It smells sour, but it doesn't smell bad sour. So then I started thinking, well, what if this is good and I just didn't feed it enough? But it's still good. There's no mold. It still has bubbles. It was always kept at room temperature. And I just fed it yesterday and it looked great today. So now I'm thinking, well, what if I continue with that sourdough starter from the 1920s, the flour, milk, and sugar, and I just feed it like every day for a week, discarding half of it, and see what happens. So the original recipe for that particular sourdough starter did not say to discard it. A lot of the sourdough recipes that I've come across that I've been researching have said that you need to discard half of the sourdough starter every time you feed it, so that you know that you're feeding good bacteria because it's supposed to rise. That was the other thing. My milk starter didn't double in size. It did rise, it did bubble, but it didn't double in size. So my new idea was I got 2-gallon jars, and I started a different sourdough starter just in case, because I figure, if I'm going to be doing this for 7 to 10 days, I may as well start a different sourdough starter, because maybe it really is just the recipe. Maybe the 1920s sourdough starter isn't great. So I started a sourdough starter today, just now, and I did the rubber band trick on it so that you can see where it started, and hopefully that doubles in size. And then with this one, I'm supposed to discard half, add in another 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of non-chlorinated filtered water tomorrow. And I think I do that every day for a week. Yes, repeat day 2 instructions for days 3, 4, and 5. So I do that every day for a week. So I've got that one ready to go. But I really wasn't ready to give up on this one. It looked really good today. So I don't think I'm gonna throw it away. I am discarding what's in the bowl. I put about half of it into the gallon jar. You're supposed to kind of leave a little bit of air so that it can breathe a little bit. So I didn't full on close the jars. So I'm gonna continue with this milk starter, and I'm gonna really just hope that it takes. I don't know. It's really interesting. If you've ever done a sourdough starter, I've been texting my aunt and, hi honey. I've been texting my aunt and asking her about the sourdough starter. She's said that it looks okay. If you know my Aunt Tony, you know that, you know, I don't know if that's good. Does it look good or does it look okay? Like, is okay good, or is it bad, or is it, it looks okay? I don't know. So, anyways, we're gonna try to keep up. And you see, I don't know if you can tell, like, you probably can't tell. It's more difficult to mix. And like when I scooped this milk starter into this jar, the elasticity of it was like what I only can assume you would want out of a sourdough starter. So I'm gonna keep trying with this. I am mixing it up. I was really afraid. Everybody was like, oh, use like a quart jar. Some have done it in a pint jar, and I've seen them like overflowing. So I was kind of afraid to do a pint jar, and I just, I didn't think that a quart jar was gonna be enough either, because I wanna see it rise. And let's be honest, once I get something down, I'm gonna wanna do it all the time. You can hear my washing machine, hold on. I'm gonna wanna do it all the time, or I'm gonna wanna use it, and I'm gonna wanna use it like a lot of it, if I get it right. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and use a big jar, and if I get it right, I'll make a sourdough loaf. I'm also thinking that maybe the bread machine was a bad idea, because I do have a Dutch oven. I can do like like a brulee, I think it is, and do it in the Dutch oven, in the oven. So I might, when I test these out, I might do one way and one that way, and just kind of see if that works out. And then if it works and it's good, I have a few friends that are just dying to taste it once it does go well. And I will probably turn this into like a friendship bread situation where I'm giving out some starter, because it's a process, and it's not exactly a process that you can just kind of wing it, And so I will probably give out some of this starter if it works out, but that's fingers crossed that it works out. And then when it does work out, I'm gonna wanna make like sourdough pancakes and sourdough waffles and English muffins and sourdough bread. And we do like a lot of tuna melts sometimes. It's just like a quick, easy dinner. So I'll probably want to do some tuna melts, and I always end up buying sourdough. So if I can avoid that and whatever other crap is in sourdough bread that you get from the store, I'm down for it. So yeah, let me know. I mean, I have Googled so many different recipes. I have searched and asked and gone through family cookbooks, and I've gone on like all kinds of different websites and stuff. And I mean, there's just all different kinds of ways to do it. So I figured, and I didn't want to use yeast. A lot of them have yeast, but I figured I want to add yeast to the dough when I make the sourdough. I don't want to like yeast it right away, because I want the yeast to grow. Isn't that what it's supposed to do? Bacteria and sourdough, and let it grow and ferment. So I didn't want to use yeast in my starter. So that was like my big thing, was I was really trying not to use yeast in my starter, and I was really trying not to have to discard half of it every single day. But I guess you kind of have to, because after using some of it and feeding my sourdough milk starter yesterday. It looked really good today, so we'll see. Anyways, milk sourdough starter, water sourdough starter. Day 1 for the water sourdough starter. I don't even know. I started this one on the 19th. So that's what, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days, 12 days in? Yeah, I think 12 or 13 days in for this one. And I'm feeding it now. So, fingers crossed. I'll let you know.